Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I hope everyone is doing okay on this Saturday. Let me check my sound before I kick off. I do shows during the week, but every so often I do shows on Saturdays if I am up, if there's nothing else to do and we're puttering about. And I also need to do the makeup show for the patron appreciation because I didn't get to do it after I got from the doctors yesterday. I was tired, didn't feel that great, and I end up just kind of crashing. But we can do it today, we can do it this evening. I notified the person who won the t-shirt. I'm waiting for her to give me a heads up on whether or not I can give her name out for the standpoint of saying you won, but she's been notified. As for the topic, I'm going to do that on another video because I got to be honest, I want to think about it a little bit more. But I have a birthday / going away party coming back this evening. And so I'm going to have some videos up until that point. And so one of the videos before I leave is going to be that last video. So probably around, 1 o'clock. So maybe around 3, we can talk about doing the long video, the long form patron appreciation. For this one though, I have a few that I want to get in because there's a lot that was taking place yesterday that I didn't get an opportunity to actually do and go through. And this one is a great one. So aggressive progressive, Jimmy Dore, Steve-O, buddies under normal circumstances, getting into a screaming match with each other. And I understand where Dore is coming from on this. By the same token, I think I get where Steve-O is coming from on this. He has skin in the game. And so he's not that straightforward, they can take me off the air type feeling that's associated with somebody having an account on one of these social media networks that's pushing back against the narrative. You're talking about Jimmy Dore's livelihood. I can imagine he will feel a particular way about it because I also feel a particular way about it. I understand where he's coming from. But either way, I'm going to let you hear the argument. Right off the bat, I will give you a heads up. Dore is right on this, but Dore is right to a point. It is not as an absolute, even though it comes across from the standpoint as an absolute that Dore is arguing. I don't think it's an absolute at all. I think there's a gradient, but I think Dore is like 80% right on this. So let's take a look at this. Hopefully this won't be something where they take me off the air because I'm showing a video. Oh, you're showing a video. He's duplicating videos. I'm not going to show the entirety of this. I'm only going to show parts of this. Oh, by the way, if you enjoy the content, you can support the content through the link above. There's a link in the description box where you can click and it would allow you to support. It's a super chat like device that allow you to give for the show. That's not a push to give, that is a heads up because my entire channel has been demonetized for the month of August and probably into the month of September because as it sounds, it takes a while for these guys to answer. And they haven't answered whether they're going to steal the $1,400. Up to this point, they've stolen the money because they were supposed to give that money on the 22nd. Nevertheless, let's take a look at the clip. Let's take a look at the clip. It's an interesting clip. It's not that long, and I'm going to cut in between it because I want to make certain points. Because Dore is right on this, but I don't think Dore is arguing this right, if that makes sense. Let's take a look at the video, and let's see if we can find a better argument in this case.
Week's show. Let me give it to you, Steve. Do you have anything to say?
Well, I mean, look, I don't know why we have to keep going back to Alex Jones as a reason why he should not be censored. And
but look, there has to be a process in place that is transparent. That is not what's happening. Right now it's happening in secret with warmongering motherfuckers like Henry Kissinger telling...
I agree with you on all of that part, okay? I mean...
So yes, you can take someone down. You have to have a adversarial judicial process.
I don't know what that means. Like a courtroom?
Yes. But you're advocating for billionaire guys in Silicon Valley to decide this all on their own, and you run a fucking media company?
Yes, I am.
And that's what you're advocating for?
Yes, I am.
Really?
Yes, I'm advocating that platforms can take down certain creators.
I can't wait till DYT is taken down for being against a war.
I hope you understand Dore's point here because I think Dore's point is more right. Now, and I got to be honest, I don't know how you can have it both ways. Essentially, it sounds like that's what Steve was arguing. I'm sorry, let me adjust this. You got to have a process. That's Dore's point. Steve O's point is, I own a media company. I want the ability to be able to take somebody down. That's his point. When Dore is saying you own a media company and you think that's the case, yeah, he thinks that's the case because he owns a media company and he wants the capacity to be able to take somebody down as the owner of that company. You know, the prerogative of the capitalists. Now, but what Dore is saying is right. If you don't have a process, then it's to the whim of whoever is in charge. So you have Zuckerberg, who's at the behest of the United States government deciding to take down groups friendly to Palestinians. Essentially, the Israeli and the United States government nakedly have essentially been pushing Facebook to these kind of positions where they're taking down Palestinian sites. They took down Telesur. There was another lefty site, at least from the standpoint of Twitter, that was taken down. Plenty of people on Twitter that were anti-war. Caitlin Johnston, they brought her back up. One of the other cats, they banned him for life. Almost like a Stalinist purge where they've literally erased him from existence. Van Buren, that's his name. Not to mention the Empire Files being defunded through sanctions. I'm saying, at my channel, completely demonetized. All of this stuff is done on a whim. There's no debate. There's no conversation. It's done on a whim. Now, to Steve O's point, well, those are private companies. They can do whatever they want. Yes, they're private companies and they can do whatever they want, which is where we're coming to the problem and which is where Jimmy Dore is kind of making this point of an adversarial process. But Jimmy Dore is immediately jumping to this idea of the courtroom. It's a private enterprise. Now, I say it's a private enterprise because I want to make this point very clear that based on terms of use, these private enterprises have said, look, it's our company. We can do whatever we want. We can take somebody off. If we don't like Palestinians, we can take off Palestinian sites. If we think you're supporting Palestinian sites, we can take you down. If we think you're Iranians, like in the case where people on Twitter were being taken down just for living in Iran, putting up content, they can take you down. There is a naked pro-American agenda that's on Facebook. Now, the catch becomes, do you want multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations purely making the decisions in and of themselves on who that they can de-platform? And understand why I'm asking that question. It is true that these are private enterprises. That is true. It is true that First Amendment protections extend from the standpoint of government, not necessarily private enterprise, like the Freedom of Information Act. Yes, I can get information from the government, but if that government is working with a corporation and it's hiding certain information within the corporation, then I no longer have access to those files from the Freedom of Information Act because they are hidden within, the vestiges of a private corporation. Same thing applies in this case. You have a private company. People signed on a terms of service, terms of use for that private company. It's almost like signing on to binding arbitration. Ultimately, you've signed a contract in order to get into this particular thing, meaning in order to do X, you have to sign on to Y. There's no way around it. Now, in this case, Steve-O's point is, well, look, it's their company. They should be able to deplatform. By the same token, I don't think they should deplatform X. And Jimmy Dore's point is you can't have it both ways. Either you have a process or you don't. Either you're for billionaires to be able to take down whoever they want at the behest and pressure of governments or not. The reason why I'm making the point of private versus public, meaning you have a First Amendment right, yes, by the same token, these are private enterprises, they do whatever they want. I want to make this 2 points. One is, yes, these are private enterprises. However, these private enterprises are doing this at the behest of the United States government. The government is doing an end run around the First Amendment. Nobody gave two shits about Alex Jones until this Russia nonsense came up and they started browbeating the media companies to not just be platforms, but to be censorship scenarios. Meaning, these platforms have become items of pushing a U.S. agenda, not just platforms in and of themselves. The reason why Alex Jones comes up is because Alex Jones is the extremes of this. If it's okay to do this to Alex Jones, then it's okay to do this to anybody. Because ultimately, You're saying it's a terms of use issue. Alex Jones signs the terms of use so they can get rid of Alex Jones because Alex Jones broke the terms of use. You understand those terms of use can be tweaked, contorted, interpreted, or changed on a whim. Do you remember at Apocalypse when they got rid of Cal? I think 90% of Cal's site was demonetized on a whim. They didn't talk to Cal about it at all. On a whim. You signed on to it, it's fair game. Is that the reality to which you want to live? I think it's a fair question to ask. If the United States government, yes, there's certain First Amendment protections that it needs to deal with, but if the government itself, let me say it this way, your public discourse is now in the hands of private enterprise. Private enterprise, essentially, for all intents and purposes, owns the means of discourse. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all of these things are owned by one percenters, multinational corporations. The government presses down on those multinational corporations to do the job that they themselves can't do. Meaning, I in government can't force you to shut the fuck up about this. However, I can put pressure on those multinational corporations that controls the speech to which you are using to get you to shut the fuck up. Is this the reality that you want? Because this is the reality that you're finding yourself in. They are attacking left-wing sites, left and right. It's not just Alex Jones. Alex Jones is brought up, but it's not just Alex Jones. What Jimmy Dore is saying here, he has a point. Is this what you want? Now, making a point of the courtroom, there's something that Jimmy Dore is not saying that he should say here, is that what it insinuates an extension of the First Amendment. Meaning that the First Amendment protections are extended in certain scenarios. Now, what I mean by certain scenarios, we do protections and we do certain things anyway along these lines. Now, this argument gets worse, but I'm going to give my pitch and I'm going to put the video at the bottom. But if you go into somewhere to get something to eat, more likely than not, that place is not putting rat poison in your food. A, it kills you as a customer, but also it's against the law. If you are creating a business, you may need to put a handicap ramp outside that business because we in this country say that we want people, even if they're disabled, to be able to access certain industries. That's what we do because we say that's what we are as a society. This is a reflection of our values. We do the same thing with race. We say that if you're of a particular race, you can't necessarily love any race. You can't say, I'm not going to serve this person because they're white. I'm not going to serve this person because they're black. That's not allowed. If you open the doors to your business, by virtue of you opening a cake or a pie shop, and you're making cake and pies, you have to serve those cake and pies to whoever comes into that door. That is the price of opening a business and doing business in this country. There are all sorts of these. We don't allow people to get into exploitive contracts where a person gets into a contract where they get paid $3 an hour. We don't allow kids to work. That's frowned upon. There are all sorts of things where the government itself or the public interest, meaning us as a collective society, has taken an interest saying, yeah, we're not going to allow that for whatever particular reason. We're not going to allow it because there's a social defect associated with it. We don't like kids working. We don't like you being racist. We don't like you putting rat poison in foods. We want to make sure handicapped people can access services in the same way like everybody else. And those things are contextual to the markets to which they exist. You wouldn't expect a cake maker to serve somebody or to fix somebody's laptop. They serve cakes. The law applies to that person making cakes and giving that person cakes. I'm saying this to make a point. If those laws exist for those other companies, why on earth are these companies excluded from these type of provisions where they can essentially, I guess what I'm saying is, if this is now the new digital commons, and if we don't want a situation where all public conversation is held in the hands of private enterprise, then we as a collective and as a society needs to start making decisions on what do we want to do about it. And maybe what we want to do about it is extend first protections of the First Amendment to sites that specialize in speech. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, neither of those exist if somebody didn't come out and say something. Those sites are purely dependent upon this idea of speech. Maybe in cases of sites that use our speech, our language, our content maybe free speech should extend further protections. That's Jimmy Dore's point. I agree with that point. He's not saying it in those terms. I'm saying it in those terms. The First Amendment protections needs to be emboldened and needs to be extended in situations of companies that deal with speech. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you can't take everybody off. This is why I say 80%. I don't think this is an absolute. I think us, as a collective, in the same way when we make certain caveats in the First Amendment, we do the same thing with this. But it should not be at the behest of billionaires, nor should it be a situation where the government can do an end run around the First Amendment by putting pressure on these companies to do the job that they themselves can't do, meaning they're facing a populist backlash from the left and on the right. And they're trying to put pressure on these companies to choke off the information flow that's going to people that is not mainstream media. Meaning, the thing that's allowing those people to get information that pushes back against the narrative that mainstream media is pushing, they want to put a finger in that. They want to stop that. They want to put a choke point on that. And the choke point for that is social media. 70% of the news that people receive, it comes from social media. At this point, that's only going to become more significant. Your reality is being shaped by a bunch of billionaires that only has corporate interests in mind. And in this case, you have a government that's compressing and contorting those corporate billionaires to shape your reality into a particular way to their choosing. A choosing, mind you, that is purely within their own political objectives. Jimmy Dore is right here. One of two things needs to happen. Either we need to have a public company or public companies that have the same functions as Facebook, YouTube, Google, so we can have our own public commons. Or First Amendment protections needs to be extended into the realm of companies that deal with media. Again, we make all certain caveats and protections for all sorts of things in our countries dealing with businesses. I don't see why Facebook, Google, and Twitter are any different. And I'm going to give my case. On a whim, YouTube has decided to demonetize the entirety of the channel. They did this on a whim. No consultation, no pushback, no real level of appeal, no real level of conversation. A business working on their channel can be immediately demonetized on a whim. And they would say, you signed your terms of service, so it is fair game that we can get rid of you in any subjective way that we choose. If we said you did it, you did it. There is no pushback. Our people are godlike, and we have the absolute say. How do you know that their absolute say is not purely based on subjective ends? How do you know? How do you even know if they're right, even if they are right? How do you know they're right? You have to take their word for it. This is nonsense. But they can do this because this is a multinational corporation that has a terms of service that says you signed the terms of service so we can do whatever we want in this case because you signed your terms of service. You work at McDonald's for a month. They found that you came in late 10 minutes on the view screen and they say, well, look, you signed the contract saying that we can fire you for whatever reason we want to fire you. And now that we fire you, we're also keeping your wages for the last 2 weeks. Sorry. The idea that lefties will get out here and say, because people signed the terms of service, that any kind of exploitive relationship is perfectly okay from the standpoint of these media companies is embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing. Jimmy Dore is right here. That doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have caveats in the law, meaning, no, you can't yell fire in a crowded place, meaning there are caveats in the First Amendment. So there would be caveats and protections that would allow people to be deplatformed in this situation. But it would not be purely at the behest of multinational corporations, nor would it be Zuckerberg or some other billionaire, some guy in their flip-flops, making a decision on whether or not to take somebody off. Either political reasons, or they just don't particularly like the person's content. We need protections. They need to be extended. Dore's right. Let's keep going. I'm going to play a little bit more of this.
You're saying that you want Mark Zuckerberg? What the fuck Zuckerberg's
Why
name
don't you let me
is?
finish then?
Okay, I'll let you.
Okay? Instead of keep constantly interrupting, why don't you let me finish?
Okay, I'll let you.
Right? My point is, if you are taking anyone down for their political speech, that is totally wrong. And I'm against all of that. What I'm saying is that there are people.
Doesn't matter if it's wrong. Doesn't matter if it's wrong. YouTube has stole $1,400 from me. Whether it's right or wrong is besides the point. They have the capacity to do it. What Jimmy Dore is trying to impress upon you is there needs to be a process, as opposed to just somebody making an individual choice. If you're going to make the argument that people can make individual choices to take somebody down, then it's all fair game. The terms of use can be changed at any particular point. Why even have the terms of use? They can make a choice anytime they want to deplatform somebody if they don't like their content. Oh, Caitlin Johnson says something bad about John McCain, I'm taking her down. Oh, this other guy made a joke that I don't particularly like, I'm taking him down. When Sam Cedar made that joke, he made a rape joke about his daughter. I defended him on this because it was bullshit. And they wanted to take him off MSNBC. Oh, we don't like what he says, so we're taking him down. Do you really want the internet purely within the hands of a very few plutocrats that would have almost godlike ability to shape reality and make the determination on who stays, who goes, and what speech is acceptable? You saying that it's wrong is besides the point. I don't care about right or wrong in this case. I care about cause and effect. If the argument is that I think it's wrong, but because I have a media company, I want to be able to deplatform people. It's not that I completely disagree with Steve-O here. Yeah, there will be some cases where you need to deplatform somebody. If somebody's calling out, trying to murder somebody, then yeah, I can totally understand this idea of deplatforming somebody for trying to murder somebody. Alex Jones is a goofball. He's a goofball. Even under the model, in my head, of extending the protections of the First Amendment, Alex Jones still may fall out of the boundaries of a collective choice with regards to what that boundary is. But this is not what's taking place. These are singular organizations being pressured by the government to do what the government officials and the politicians themselves can't do. They don't want to run against these people, and they don't want to try to squeeze and constrict the level of information that the people are getting. You will get some people screaming that aliens are eating babies, but you would also get people giving credible, reasoned, detailed information that they're not getting from the mainstream media. And I put to you that is the perspective that they're trying to squash. Jones is just the outlier in the beginning, and we were right when I said that. Let's keep going. But again, I don't 100% disagree with Steve-O. It's, yeah, and not 100%, but like I said, 80% or 90% disagree.
People who violate terms of service and do other things that's not protected speech, and they can be taken down. And here's what I mean by that.
Terms of service can be anything. The terms of service can be constricted to be anything. They can change it tomorrow. Right now, YouTube tomorrow can change the terms of service, and somebody in their flip-flops can interpret that terms of service to say that if Jimmy Dore is saying that Russia didn't hack the elections, that Jimmy Dore is pushing fake news, and we don't allow fake news on YouTube, so we're taking his video down. What's stopping them? What's stopping them? Which is my point. What's stopping them? This conversation that they're having right now. YouTube can say, you know what? This is violating our terms of service because we don't particularly like the way you're talking about this particular topic. Do you understand that the terms of service is purely crafted by the capitalists in this case? And any level of terms of service, they're going to craft this terms of service to be purely to their best interest. Think of Google for the moment and think of the people on YouTube. If you talk to the content creators, what do the content creators say about the channel itself? Do you think the content creators are happy in the way that YouTube essentially caters to these outside interests that really don't particularly like YouTube in the first place? They cater to the people who are paying them, to the advertisers, even more so than they are to the content creators. Without the content creators, you don't have YouTube. You don't have anything. Just have people with their hands in their asses. I don't know who gave this. I would find this at the end of this, but thank you very much. Let's keep going. All this help to the site is appreciated. Saying this has been demonetized.
If you start showing porn, that's not allowed. You can be taken down for that. If you're harassing individuals and making their lives miserable, they can take you down for that.
Right here. And again, I agree with him on this. But this is under the process thing. This doesn't necessarily push back against what Dore is saying, per se. Dore is just making the point there needs to be a process in doing this, and there is no process right now in doing this. They're just taking people down willy-nilly based on certain political ideas or political affiliations, with the incipient factor being the Russia nonsense. Again, Dore is right. Steve is making this argument, and I feel like he's making this argument for himself. I could be wrong. Yes, you can take somebody down for porn, but that's not our argument. My argument is not that you can't take somebody down for porn. My argument is that there needs to be an extension of the First Amendment and there needs to be a process. It sounds like Dore is making a similar argument. So I don't think this touches Dore's argument.
Who's they? Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
Who's they?
YouTube or Facebook or
some
Spotify
nameless,
or,
unaccountable person.
Yes, they can.
Okay, that is a intellectually lazy position.
No, it's
that
not.
I've
All right, at this point, now we're getting into, it becomes a fuck fest from here. But you get their positions. Dore's right. Dore's right. Is this the world that you want? Is this really the world that you want? Unaccountable billionaires making decisions on these things. You can have a process to exclude this idea of pornography that goes beyond just having a corporation to be able to craft and recraft their terms of service anytime they want to craft and recraft their terms of service. It's not necessarily intellectually lazy. It's more so that Steve-O has skin in the game. And so from the perspective of Steve-O, well, I want the capacity to be able to control this stuff. While at the same token, people like Dore and I look at this and say, they could take me off the fucking air. Like, they're going after people's career. It's bothersome to me to hear the left make arguments on why the left can be taken off of the airwaves. That's amazing to me. We, as the public, should have collective control of the internet. That's the first point. And there needs to be extensions of First Amendment rights in companies and organizations that deal with speech. If your application or your organization is primarily dealing with speech, then yeah, there should be certain protections that get extended to that. Dore shouldn't have called this intellectually lazy. He shouldn't have. Self-interested, yes. Lazy. You can understand this goes into fuckery from here. But let's see a little bit of fuckery.
Bumped a million times here already.
So a platform cannot take down anyone for any reason without a hearing in a court of law?
You can throw someone in jail without a hearing. You mean you have to have a hearing every time you throw someone in jail? Every time you take someone's freedom of speech away?
I never said jail. Did I say jail? I say jail?
Okay, so
that's the false equivalency. Okay, that's total fucking bullshit, and you know it. Okay,
so you're saying free speech.
I'm not talking about free speech. I'm talking about the right to be on a platform. That is not free speech.
So you don't think that?
It's not free speech, but they're doing it in the runaround. That's kind of the point. That's the point. I'm putting this video at the bottom. Like I said, this goes into fuckery very quick. I think Dore's right, but Dore shouldn't have. He shouldn't have went there. I'm just saying, he shouldn't have went there. Was keep that alternative super chat, Jamal. Fuck YouTube. I'll never super chat again. Yeah, they're fucking me in. Fucking me over. Call in time. I'd be for fake Salar returns. Oh, that's funny. Fake Salar's back. That's hilarious. Yeah, they fucked me over royally. I am so against what Steve is saying on this. Because understand what he's saying. A terms of use. The idea that a terms of use is somehow the word of God. That you could be kept out of public comments. 70% of the news and the information comes from social media. You can be kept out of this arena if you don't want to sign on to an exploitive terms of use. Why is that right? And if that's not right, what do you want to do for your society from the standpoint of correcting this? It's a fucking travesty. Jeremy Corbyn, by the way, is going to the lengths of talking about a digital commons. It is an amazing thing. I'm going to cover that story. I was blown away by that. His point is, why do we want a top 1% to be fully in control and in charge of these systems when we use these systems now as the commons? Fucking love the guy. Steve-O is the one that loses his cool. Jimmy is just passionate. Yeah, whatever. That's That's a really light reading of what was taking place here. It is intellectually lazy. His argument relies on the pedantic nonsense that it can only be a free speech issue if the government is involved. That's bullshit. Yeah, I agree with you that that's bullshit. I don't necessarily think it's intellectually lazy, but I understand where you're coming from. I think it's self-interest. He said in the beginning, I have a media company. Are you telling me that I'm not going to be able to deplatform somebody on my media company? Now, from Dore's point, no, maybe not a court of law, but yes, a hearing. Not a bullshit hearing. Yes, a hearing. Yes, a hearing. Let's see. Jamarl, you're right. Anarcho-socialism is the way forward. Yes, I agree. I think it is. The real issue is what we allow ourselves to fall into tech company spiderweb. Yes, agreed. And basically debating on sticking the web should be smash Facebook, smash YouTube, video game Vision Quest. I agree with you on this. I agree with you on this. I like Jeremy Corbyn's idea of a digital commons. I like this idea of us having our own communication system from the standpoint of us. If Facebook and Google and YouTube want to do their thing, fine. Let's do our own thing. And I'm talking about from the standpoint of us as a collective, as a public entity of sorts, having our own digital commons. I love that idea. I love that idea. If these guys want to deplatform people, fine. But in lieu of that, I like the idea of First Amendment protections extending to companies that are basically media companies. I like it. I love it. I love the idea. Rojava. Yeah, I know Rojava. It's a territory in southern Syria that is basically a narco-socialist country where the area is commune made up of families that make all decisions. Yes. Yeah. Public utility. Yeah, it should be a public utility. An internet bill of rights. Yes. I am so glad we're in agreement on this. Oh, holy shit, I can't believe I have this many people here. But yeah, I'm so glad we're in agreement. You go to work at a pie shop. And as you're working in that pie shop, you fuck up something. And a customer comes back and complains about something that took place, let's say, 2 weeks ago. At that point, you've been working for 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks behind you, the job. The boss fires you and says there's a clause in your contract that says that if you're fired, it is the sole discretion of the boss on whether or not you will get paid for those 2 weeks. Now, that's bullshit. But they can do it. Is it legal? Who knows? You will have to prove that in court in order to get your money back. And do you have the expenses and the money to do it? YouTube, or let's say it's not YouTube. Let's say it's McDonald's. Let's say you work at McDonald's for 2 weeks. Let's say you work there for 3 months. And let's say they find out that you fucked something up. Maybe you got there late a day or two. And they saw it on the video camera. The manager comes back and fires you. And he says, because we're firing you, because of this, there's a clause in your contract that says we can withhold your wages for those 2 weeks that you've worked. I find this to be fucking amazing. Why is it, that would be mind-blowing to take place in those companies. But Google can do it in a heartbeat. YouTube has a sole discretion of saying whether or not we will pay somebody, even when people give super chats to that particular individual. Now, this is a contract issue. And this goes to this idea of kind of what Jimmy Dore and Steve Orr are arguing. If the very act of you signing a contract, does it sign away all of your rights from the point at which you sign the contract? I find that to be an amazing argument. This idea that a company can do whatever it wants just because you were in a desperate situation where you were willing to sign your name on the line. Again, 70% of the news is relayed through Facebook, Google, Twitter, essentially social media. If you want to be part of the debate, you need to sign on the terms of service. Well, if in all of the terms of service they have these type of clauses, then they effectively can scrub you out of the debate at any time that they want when they don't particularly like what you're saying, and it is somewhat subjective on what you're saying. It's not always porn stars. It's not always Alex Jones. The Palestinian site wasn't Alex Jones. The Occupy London site wasn't Alex Jones. My site wasn't Alex Jones. Caitlin Johnson wasn't Alex. None of those things were Alex Jones. And they were still scrubbed. They're still scrubbed. Steve was wrong. Steve was just wrong. Binding arbitration. Yeah. Are you sure, Jamal? Hello, what? Am I sure about what? Jamal, I'm receiving emails from Noam Chomsky like you. It's scary to be talking to such an amazing guy. Oh, I received an email from Noam Chomsky. Yeah. It wasn't scary. I was just, They're stealing from creators. All super chats should either be paid to the creator or refunded to the audience, keeping it a step. Agreed. They should have paid it to the creator at the time where it was supposed to be paid to the creator. For the time frame to which they keep that money, if they continue to keep that money, that is outright theft. So, yeah. And, by the way, we should have unionized in YouTube. The creators themselves should have unionized. You have no protections on this channel. None of them have any protections on this channel. They can take Jimmy Dore off tomorrow. Do you really honestly believe they need a reason? They had the copyright strikes and everything else. They can give you a copyright strike for anything. They gave Stephen Molyneux, I don't particularly like the guy, but they gave him 2 copyright strikes like overnight on a whim. I'm trying to get across that you have no power in the system. Ultimately, you as a content creator are essentially left at the whim of the corporation. That corporation is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that can do what it wants because it's the only game in town. Any sane society, Google, YouTube, would have been broken up. It would have been broken into a ton of pieces. I saw someone did try to start a YouTube union. They won't take Jimmy Dore off because he's attached to TYT. Maybe. I think the Amazing Atheist was trying to do something. Jamal, can I tell you how pissed off that Dilemma had left? Dude, you have no idea. I am apoplectic. Like, this fucks me in so many ways. My wife and I worked my ass off on this channel for the last, almost 2 years. I would work my regular job, and after working my regular job, I would come home and do this for like 4 or 5 hours. I did that incessantly, going on for like a year, literally. No hyperbole in that. Finishing 2, 3 in the morning, getting back up at like 8 to go to work, and rinse and repeating the process day after day after day after day. You put all that time and energy into a channel. You're not doing it to get paid because you don't get paid anything for the first 8 months or so. I wasn't getting paid squat. It was just doing it because I just enjoyed doing it and putting the content out. And then at some point you say, well, it seems that people are liking it. All right, let's try to monetize it. Let's try to turn this into something for all the time that's invested into it. And let's see where it goes. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy the fuck out of it. Let's see where it goes. And so you invest more time and energy while still doing both. And so between the time you're spending on YouTube and the other thing, you're spending like the overwhelming majority of your time working. And your wife, girlfriend is pissed off at you because you're doing it. And then it's like randomly copyright strike. Oh, our bad. It wasn't a copyright strike. Shit like that. Or and I don't care if they say, look, this person is calling foul on this and they want to take the money from the video. Fine, whatever. It's not that much in the video, so I don't particularly care. But at the point where you're projecting what you're going to make, because everybody makes a budget, everybody comes up with what they're going to make as a salary month after month after month after month, and you project what that's going to be based on your earnings, based on what you're getting from various revenue sources, and you say, all right, this looks good. I think I can make this work. Based on the rule set to which I've been working by, this will work. And then on a whim, not only do they say we're demonetizing you for August, at the end of July, meaning at the very end of July, not only are we demonetizing you for August, we're stealing your earnings for July. Stealing your earnings for July. So it's, yeah, you're not going to get paid for August, and you're not going to get paid for July. And you push back and you say, well, wait a minute. What are you doing? Are you stealing this? Is that what you're doing? Are you committing theft? I mean, I need you to say that you're committing theft because I want it to be clear before I take my next step. What are you doing? Are you keeping the money for July? What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you stealing the money? And tech support goes mum. Tech support doesn't want to say anything. Does a YouTube tech support right here. They're here. They answer questions for other people when those people are asking questions. Here they are. I tweet to them all the time. Because, when you're stealing, you should at the very least be okay with addressing the person who you're stealing from, or make it plain that you're not stealing. Well, they didn't do either. In fact, I can even show you their email. Let's see. YouTube. Because I responded to them when they first sent the email, and I'm like, what? And I thought to myself, look, I don't like it, but fair enough. It's your channel. If you want to take me off for a month, fair enough. But it's different when you steal, though. That's not the same thing. You don't necessarily have any right to the earnings that the person made. Right here. This is the email. You cannot receive AdSense payment for past YouTube revenue. That's theft. They're stealing money. This is a YouTube email. During a recent review, we found that you were duplicating videos, etc., etc. As of today, your channel is not eligible to monetize. Now, you can reply, but you cannot receive AdSense payments for your past YouTube revenue. Sorry, we're keeping it. That's theft. They are stealing. YouTube is stealing money. That is outright theft. There's no other way to say it. Oh, you can continue to upload your videos, but yeah, we're stealing your money. Sorry, we're stealing your cash. You also can't earn from premium channels, meaning that people can watch your videos, and under normal circumstances, you would earn money from those channels. Well, there's no ads playing on those channels. Typically, you would get revenue from those channels. Not so much now. But this is the part. We're stealing. That's theft. Hello, what's the name?
Hey, Sebastian.
What's happening, Sebastian?
A couple of quick points I wanted to throw in just while we're at it, because I think it fundamentally comes down to a question of whether you believe that the internet and effectively social media is a public forum.
Yes.
And an open space. Because if you are on that side, then you have some noticeable changes. Then you can't really say, now a corporation can say, you don't have free speech anymore, you don't have the ability to speak, we're going to restrict your data access, ergo, suddenly we're stuck in that problem. So if you're really with the internet as a municipal utility, you can't really say suddenly, okay, we're going to treat your data differently based on what you have said. You no longer have the ability to have free speech, but it's not based on the government, it's based on our own terms of service. And I think ultimately, I almost admire Jimmy a little bit for effectively talking to who is his boss and saying, you're making the argument that you right now could censor me and take me off the air and say my speech doesn't matter. So that's a lot of balls to say that directly to your boss's face.
My wife asked me.
You can basically pull that.
My wife was like, she says, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the other thing would be that ultimately, granted, I kind of find the whole like advertiser revenue in itself kind of ridiculous. The fact that we effectively have to beg people to advertise on pages for money, as opposed to supporting the content creators for their own content. That just seems like it's a backwards way of thinking, that we have to effectively still beg corporate America to fund ads on channels as opposed to actually like fixing that problem. It seems asinine that we're going in this roundabout way.
You're talking about like paying for revenue, like YouTube. Like if somebody said it costs X amount to get into YouTube and X amount to support X creator or something like that.
Right, and it's like, and even then you can't really control who gets to advertise on your channel at all. You have zero creative control in that regard. And I still get PragerU ads in front of your videos, which makes no fucking sense. Like,
wow.
Holy shit.
That's amazing.
You can't even control that. Like,
that's amazing.
And there's no way to sort of even specify, I don't want ads from this kind of group.
This oil company or this other thing. Yeah. Like you do an ad, you do a video on environmental damage, and they have an oil company ad or your video on environmental damage.
Right.
Yeah.
And it almost seems to be contrarian to the point of the video when it doesn't even like tie in. I wouldn't be as sort of weirded out if I saw like a gun ad on an Alex Jones video. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But when I see a gun ad on a Jamarl Thomas video, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And there's no way to change that.
It's arbitrary.
So,
yeah. I mean, it really is.
And effectively, it's one of those things that if you're going to have, like, terms of service and private control and basically say, okay, we're taking Steve O's sort of segment of that.
Yeah.
As soon as leadership changes or as soon as one person decides, I don't like what this person's saying.
He's out. He's out. Terms of service changes.
That's not
the person goes.
As sort of useful of a metric to check that kind of thing. And the question is, do you think that the ultimate arbiter of what is true and what is not should be the Constitution, like what is dangerous and what is not? Or do you think it should be the private sector's whims, especially being egged on by Congress to push the same narrative?
Exactly.
And then you...
Because at that point, it's no longer private enterprise. Like, that is literally Congress pressing on private enterprise to do something. I call it an end run around the First Amendment. Congress doesn't like certain speech that's being put out because it challenges their authority. So Dianne Feinstein wants names. She wants lists. Like, literally calling for lists of people on Twitter who's, doesn't believe the Russian narrative. Jimmy Dore's name is probably on a list sitting in some kind of congressional office right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, so, like, this is the scenario to which we have, and it's an end run around the First Amendment, which is why I push for the First Amendment protections, or, like you said, turn into a municipality. So, I agree with you, man.
And if you look at it as a public forum, like, if you think about how Alex Jones would play out in a true public forum, completely devoid of censorship, unless it literally violated constitutional protection.
And it might. Like, that's the part. Like that's the part that I get. It might.
And even if he skirts around it, like, he is basically, if you turn sort of all of this into, I don't know, the 1600s kind of style, where pre-internet, he would be the town crier who's yelling in the middle of the square about doomsday proclamations and insanity and gay frogs.
He always existed. Jones has been doing this for like a decade. Like all of a sudden now, we need to take him down now. You've been doing this shit for like a decade. He's been doing this shit forever.
Right.
Russia meddling shit.
And he's like, he would be laughed out of the public square in an actual public square. But because YouTube doesn't do the same thing in terms of how its algorithms work, and there's no transparency, you can't even file a Freedom of Information Act to find out how their algorithms function. Because they're not a government resource.
They wouldn't even tell me, when I got this email, they wouldn't even say, what were the duplicate videos? Because understand the situation I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're using duplicate videos. I don't know if they're using, it's like you're using an image from something online that we think is violating some kind of terms, so we don't particularly. They could even be using that. They could even be using a video from somebody else that copied a video of mine. Like, so the video I did from guy, what's his name? There's somebody else on YouTube that merged the video together. They can use that. They can say, hey, there's a video here, and it looks like you've taken the video. This was my fucking original video. I have no idea what they are talking about from the standpoint of duplicate videos. I don't do duplicate videos. I use clips. Now, if they're saying clips, okay, that's different, but that at least gives me some context of what the fuck they're talking about.
At least the contact. If, like, they gave you contact this person to find out more about your particular
about the issue.
Like, that would give you something to go forward with and be like, hey, what the fuck is up with this? But no, they're just like, nope.
And that puts me in a situation of, is this political? is this a situation where, regardless of what takes place, meaning I could delete all sorts of content and it still will come back, yeah, we're still finding duplicates. What stops them from doing that? I'm trying to get this point across to people that you have given unaccountable power to a 1% to do whatever the fuck they want. All of your
but it's not even the 1%. It's like the
0.01%. Yeah. I mean, for all intents and purposes, all of your public conversation information is in the hand of private enterprise. That's that's a flat fact.
Public ones too, because of the NSA. It's not just private. Yeah. It's that your information is not only being sold, but it's being collected and sold.
Yeah.
At the same time.
That's the other part. Let alone, somebody hacks in and steals it. Yeah, this is a fuckfest. I get where Dore is animated in this because his livelihood is on the line. Like when Google did that, it put it in very clear terms of you have no control over your financial thing. Like, this is one of those things of you have a small business, you're running a company, your show is a business, and the place who you've contracted with has decided on their own that they're withholding your wages. That's what's taking place. And it's like, well, wait a minute. We had this arrangement, and you're now saying on your own, singularly, that you can steal money from people who donated. Like, that's mind-blowing. Like, I don't think people who donate Super Chat knows that Google can do that, or that YouTube can just steal the money that they're donating to Super. That's mind-blowing to me. Even if they say we're keeping the money from the ad revenue, that's fucked up. But okay. But the people who gave specifically gave during a live streaming, so it couldn't have been a duplication. It had to have been the person and the content creator actually doing the show. It's fucking aggravating.
Yeah, and at the same time, with Steve-O's sort of line of thought, you really have to ask yourself the question: who owns the rights to your content? Because at that point, you're saying that the terms of service allow that company that is providing the platform to own the content that is produced on that platform.
They can say we own it. They can put that clause. Yeah. What's stopping them from putting that clause in the terms of use? We own it.
And it's one of those things like, have you read the YouTube terms of use?
Nobody reads that shit.
Terms of use on my phone.
Yeah, nobody reads that shit.
It's huge and long, and no one reads it.
But they do it that way because they don't want anybody to read it.
Exactly.
Dude, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yes. Pleasure. Yes.
You make a damn. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm horrible at the interrupting.
Keep going. You provide a great public forum.
Thank you.
Keep kicking it, Jamarl. See ya.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one. All right. Good phone call. Yeah, guys, this has been aggravating to me, to say the least. All right. I'm going to end this. Yeah, it's aggravating. All right. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel... Oh, there's a light on that. That's awesome. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon at this point. I have a few shows that I'm going to do today. My wife is dragging me to a birthday party and to a going away party. I don't know what the going away party is going to be at this point. She's watching the show in the other room. She's like, fuck you, man. Yeah, they fucked me. They fucked me big time. Alright, I'm going to end this here. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and Patreon, and all that good stuff. Have a good one, guys, and I will see you shortly.